I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is another breaking news alert. We are learning that Donald Trump's lawyers, Jim Trusty and John Rowley, who have been representing Donald Trump in connection with Special Counsel Jack Smith's criminal investigation into Trump's theft of thousands of government records and obstruction of justice, have now left the legal team as charges have officially been brought by Special Counsel Jack Smith in the Southern District of Florida. We first learned about this from a post made by Donald Trump, and thereafter John Rowley and Jim Trusty posted their own message saying that they have tendered their resignations. And the reason that they claim in their resignation is that because this case was filed by Special Counsel Jack Smith in the Southern District of Florida and that they don't practice law in Florida, that is why they ultimately decided to resign. That explanation doesn't really make any sense at all, especially considering that Jim Trusty has previously represented Donald Trump in connection with court cases in Florida, and Jim Trusty was the lawyer who did the oral argument for Donald Trump before the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the Circuit Court of Appeals that encompasses the area of Florida and Georgia. So Jim Trusty has practiced law in that area. And if you are an out-of-state attorney, you would just apply what's called pro hoc vice status, which is a Latin term that just basically means that out-of-state lawyers under the supervision of a lawyer in state is permitted to practice in that state. And for example, one of Donald Trump's other lawyers who is still on the legal team, Lindsay Halligan, for example, she is a Florida lawyer, and she could have provided the hook for pro hoc vice application for John Rowley and Jim Trusty. Donald Trump's statement that he posted seemed to suggest in a way that he kind of fired or basically just got rid of Jim Trusty and John Rowley. And Donald Trump stated that he would now be having another lawyer who's already on Trump's legal team become the new leader of the legal team relating to Special Counsel Jack Smith's criminal charges. That lawyer is named Todd Blanche. And, you know, one of the other things that demonstrates that this explanation by Jim Trusty and John Rowley and even Donald Trump about the reasons that they left is because this was a case that was brought in Florida, why it makes no sense. Todd Blanche is a white-collar Wall Street lawyer. He left a big Wall Street firm to start his own boutique to represent Donald Trump. But if you go to Todd Blanche's LinkedIn, you'll see he's the founding partner of Blanche Law, attended Brooklyn Law School, but he is based in New York, so he is not a Florida lawyer, and he will pro hoc vice probably under Lindsay Halligan, who is still on the legal team. Here was Donald Trump's statement announcing the departure of Rowley and Trusty. Donald Trump wrote, "For purposes of fighting the greatest witch hunt of all time, now moving to the Florida courts, I will be represented by Todd Blanche, Esquire, and a firm to be named later. I want to thank Jim Trusty and John Rowley for their work, but they were up against a very dishonest, corrupt, evil, and sick group of people, the likes of which has not been seen before. We will be announcing additional lawyers in the coming days. When will Joe Biden be indicted for his many crimes against our nation? MAGA, all projection by Donald Trump, all lies and disinformation." We know that was Donald Trump's tactic. He would do that all the time while he was in office, and even before then, when people resigned, he would say that he fired them or got rid of them. He would immediately post a statement. So within moments of Donald Trump posting that statement that those lawyers were leaving and seemed to indicate that he had fired them or he was the reason that they left, I had even posted on my social media platform, how long until, I posted it on Twitter, how long until we find out that they actually quit? And then it took about 10 minutes before we actually found that out. Here was the joint statement by Jim Trusty and John Rowley. This morning, we tendered our resignations as counsel to President Trump. We will no longer represent him on either the indicted case or the January 6th investigation. Remember, there's still a grand jury in Washington, D.C., criminally investigating Donald Trump for election interference and wire fraud and all of the conduct relating to the January 6th insurrection and trying to overthrow a free and fair election. Jim Trusty and John Rowley's statement goes on to say, "It's been an honor to have spent the last year defending him, and we know he will be vindicated in his battle against the Biden administration's partisan weaponization of the American justice system. Now that the case has been filed in Miami, this is a logical moment for us to step aside and let others carry the cases through to completion. We have no plans to hold media appearances that address our withdrawals or any other confidential communications we've had with the president. He's no longer the president, or his legal team." And you see there, that's the justification that they're giving. It's a logical moment to step aside because the case is filed in Miami. I mean, you were representing Donald Trump in Florida before. You represented Donald Trump in a case before the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Not only that, but you joined his legal team and specifically filed in that jurisdiction and went to that jurisdiction under pro hoc vice before to practice. So this explanation makes absolutely zero sense at all. Notice at the bottom of the statement, too, they talk about that there are no plans to hold media appearances that address their withdrawals or any other confidential communications that they've had. What's so ironic about that statement is that every single day, including earlier this morning on Fox, Jim Trusty has been going on the news doing just that. Jim Trusty has been making statements about his communications with Donald Trump, been making statements about the case. He's been spreading lies about the Department of Justice and spreading lies about Special Counsel Jack Smith. When the announcement was made, or when we learned about it, that Donald Trump would be criminally indicted in the Southern District of Florida by Special Counsel Jack Smith on 7 charges, including obstruction of justice and witness tampering and conspiracy and another charge under the Espionage Act, Jim Trusty, within moments, on Thursday night, went in front of the cameras, spoke to CNN, and continued to and spoke about the charges that were listed in the summons, talked about the case, talked about Trump. But notice now they don't want to talk about anything now that the charges were brought. I want to remind you of the reporting that we've previously done here on the MeidasTouch network, where we talked about how Donald Trump's other lawyer, Tim Parlatore, resigned about 2 weeks ago from representing Donald Trump. And Tim Parlatore was one of the leaders of the legal team representing Donald Trump in connection with Special Counsel Jack Smith's criminal investigation into the theft of the records. Then Tim Parlatore said that the reason he resigned was because another one of Donald Trump's lawyers, Boris Epshteyn, was obstructing his ability to represent Donald Trump, and claimed that Boris Epshteyn obstructed searches for classified records at the Bedminster property, one of Donald Trump's other resorts. And then we also reported that a group of lawyers, and we assumed it to be Parlatore who left, as well as Jim Trusty, made what was characterized in this article as a murder-suicide pact, that if one were to resign or one were to be fired, then they would all resign and leave together. And so the fact that Parlatore left, and Parlatore then made all of those statements about Boris Epshteyn, now that this indictment has been brought, seems that Jim Trusty and John Rowley may either recognize potential exposure that they have, or they may feel a certain way about the direction of how Donald Trump is going to try to respond to Special Counsel Jack Smith, that they fear that they would be losing their legal licenses if they continued representing Donald Trump, or they would put their legal licenses in peril. There were a lot of lawyers who were quoted in one of the articles we talked about saying just that. So whether that was on background or off the record stuff relating to Jim Trusty and John Rowley. I don't know, but it clearly makes sense with that story about how other lawyers were planning to leave after Parlatore left and the murder-suicide pact for the lawyers to leave, and the timing of them leaving. But this is kind of par for the course with Donald Trump, total chaos, utter turmoil, the type of thing that we always see with how he handles things and manages things, which is just total chaos and constantly committing crimes. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, reporting on this breaking news, of course, that Todd Blanche will be now leading the legal team. And by the way, now they're calling this, Todd Blanche was always the head honcho. That's what's being reported by, I guess, Trump sources who are leaking that. He was always the head honcho. This is ridiculous. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, and wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast, and have a great day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.